Clearly visible. Huh? Okay.
Yes, sir.
What else? How many have joined now? 23. Can we start? Or they are joining?
Start, sir.
Yeah. I think still they are joining. You had a morning lectures?
Yes, sir.
How many? 2 lectures you had?
Yes, sir. Ashwini ma'am and Bhavna ma'am.
Ashwini madam and Bhuna madam is engaged. Okay, okay. That's right.
Kapoor sir.
Hello. 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 Yeah.
Sir.
Good afternoon. Can we start?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Yeah. Do one thing. Do one thing. You just mute your audio so that it will not be disturbing. So whenever you had any doubt, whenever you want to talk with me, you can just unmute it and you can talk with me then. Is this okay?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Got it. Huh? Okay. We'll just start it. Let's see it. How the things goes on. So as all of you are been aware, it was a long gap before we had any personal interaction like this. Yesterday, actually that was a reason when I shared a video with you people. Okay, so we'll be having the all this type of online classes very regularly, and we'll make sure that we'll be covering some syllabus to all the students. Okay, so I recall that we were been discussing about this top-down parsing, and wherein we discussed about we had been discussed about we had been discussed about this role of the parser, then context-free grammar, top-down parsing. I think if I'm not wrong, we had been up to here, that is the top-down parsing. So briefly, I'll just go through it, like what are the things that we had discussed it. So if you see over here, like we had discussed about the lexical analyzer, then the role of the parser, then the grammar, error handling, the various errors in it, various error recovery strategies, context-free grammar, derivations, the parse tree, how it has been built, then what's an ambiguity, how do you eliminate the ambiguity from the grammar, like two problems that we solved for the ambiguity. One was that if else statement, another one was that E goes to E plus E and so on. So these were the two things that we had been discussed. And apart from that, we also said that the top-down parsers requires the left recursion and elimination of this left factory. And this was the formula. If you remember that, we had discussed it for the elimination of the left recursion, that is A goes to A of alpha or beta, and which we replace it A goes to beta A dash and A dash goes to alpha A dash or epsilon. Okay, so this was the left recursion. Some problems that we solved with the left recursion. This is about the left factoring and how the left factoring helps. So what is left factoring? It basically takes out the common things, like whatever the common things are being there. So we take out these common things with it, and we normally rewrite the grammar. So this is about that left factoring and then yeah, this was about the left factory. I can just the system has been opened, I think. Just come out of it. Somebody's speaker is being on. May I ask to just unmute your speaker? Okay. So this was that left factoring, and then we discussed about the top-down parsing, how this top-down parser works, wherein you build your parse tree right from the start symbol, and we go towards the leaves till your parse tree is being built. So we go towards the leaves of the parse. Okay, just a minute. System has been slow. Yeah. Then we talked about this recursive descent parser, how recursive descent parser are been built, how do we build the parse tree, and so on. Then we were been discussed about how this top-down parser works with these two things. That is, one is the first and another one is the follow. So this is we talked as the LL1 grammar, this predictive parsing, and so on. Okay, now we'll be just moving on to the very important topic, and that is about the bottom-up parsing. So as we have been aware, the problems with this top-down parsers are the top-down parsers needs the backtracking. Recall that in case of the recursive descent parsers, we use the backtracking. So top-down parsers needs the backtracking. They also requires the left factoring. They also needs the left recursion. And unless all these things have been done, you cannot get an accurate parse tree. So to eliminate all these problems which have been associated with this top-down parsers, we use this bottom-up parsers. So I think once Sudha has asked me, like, what are the problems of this top-down parsers and how they are being overcome? So the problems with this top-down parsers are the backtracking, left factoring, left recursion. And all these problems are being overcome in case of the bottom-up parser. So as the name itself indicate, in case of the bottom-up parser, if the parser constructs a parse tree from an input string which is beginning at the leaves. That means your parse tree will be beginning from the leaves. It is not beginning from the start symbol. It starts from the leaves and works towards the root that is at the top. Let us take an example. We have, let's say, a grammar like E goes to E plus T or T. We have a grammar like E goes to E plus T or T, or T goes to T star F or F, and F goes to parenthesize E or an ID. Now I want to build a parse tree that is for ID plus ID. So what happens is that in the bottom of parser, what it does is that it starts building the tree from the bottom. That is, what it does is that it tries to look at the right-hand side of the production. It looks for the right-hand side of the production. So right-hand side of the production, let's say it is having the ID. Now, if you see the production, F goes to parenthesize E or ID. It means that your ID is being derived from the F. So what you do is that you derive this ID reverse way. That is, your ID is derived back to the F. And the first ID has been derived, and that's the reason why we are getting over here. We are getting over here. That is this thing. That is, this ID is being derived back to the ID. So it means that we look for the right-hand side of the production where the ID has been matching. As this ID is derived from the F, we go back and search and we get at the F into ID. So once you get this F into ID, the next step will be what? You look for the F. Now see, F is on the right hand side over here. F is deriving back to the T. So F is deriving here to the T, and that's the reason why here this F is derived back to the T. Now your production here is that it is T star ID. We don't have anything over here on the right hand side which is indicating that T star ID, and that's the reason what happens is that we'll be reducing, like see here, now we have T. So, but if I reduce this T by the start symbol E, we go to the start symbol. So once we reach to the start symbol, it is the end of the parse tree. So as we have still some grammar to be looked upon, and that's the reason why what we do is that we look for this ID, that is this ID, and we try to reduce this ID by means of the F. So this is what it happens. So we'll be reducing this ID now. We'll be reducing this ID now with the F. So we'll be reducing this ID now by the F. Just a minute. Power has gone. The power had gone. I just come down. Okay. So if you see over here, see over here, so this is what it has been happening. So again, your F, again your, if you see over here, again your F was been this ID was been reduced to the F. So what is the production you got? You got now here T star F. So if you see over here, this is the T star F. So this T star F is been reduced now to the T. So this is what it is happening. So if you see over here, this is your T star F, which is reduced to the, it has to be reduced to the T. And now your T will get reduced to the, now your T will get reduced to the E, which is your start symbol. T will get reduced to the E, which is your start symbol. So if you see over here, this has to be actually not F, it has to be T over here. Okay. So this is T and it is reduced to the E. And with this, what will happen is that, we reach to the start symbol. So if you see over here, a very simple way in case of the building this bottom-up parser is that you need to look for the right-hand side of the production. You have to look for the right-hand side of the production, replace it with the left-hand side of the production. That is your start symbol. Okay. So one of the example of this top-down parser, and this has been named as the shift reduce parser. So in case of this shift reduce parser, the general idea is to shift some symbol of the input onto the stack. General idea is to shift some symbols of the input onto the stack until a reduction can be applied one. It means that we have to look for the production. We have to look for the production. That is the right hand side of the symbol. So we need to go on shifting. You need to just a minute. Hello, sir. सर थोडा ऑनलाईन क्लास घेऊ लागतो सर क्लास घेऊ लागतो कुठे आहात तुम्ही बस आणि एक 10-15 मिनिटं थोडं क्लास घेऊ लाव सर ऑनलाईन आहे थोडा क्लास झाला की कॉल करतो तुम्हाला क्लास झाला कॉल करतो Hello, am I audible now? Hello, Shirisha.
Yes,
Shirish,
sir. Now we are able to hear.
now I'm able to hear. Okay, just see
Yes,
here.
sir.
So we were talking about the shift reduce parser. So general idea in the shift reduce parser is to shift some symbols of the input onto the stack until a reduction has been applied. Means what we are doing, we are shifting some symbols on the stack we are using. Recall that we know that stack is what? Last in, first. So you go on shifting the symbols onto the stack. What are the symbols of the grammar symbol? That is the input string what we were been matching. That symbols we need to go on shifting onto the stack. So shift. So at each of this reduction step, a specific substring. So at each of this reduction step, so what we do is that at each of this reduction step, a specific substring which is matching to the body of the production is been replaced by a non-terminal at the head of the production. Means what is happening? Let's say, for example, I have a production. Let's say F goes to ID. Now ID is the handle. ID will become now the handle. Now we need to replace that right hand side, which is a handle, with the left hand side of the symbol. So at each of this reduction, so what are the options we have? With the shift reduce parser, we have two options. First one is the shift, another one is reduce. So in shifting, we normally shift one symbol of the input string onto the stack. Now we check whether that symbol matches to any of the right hand side of the production. If it matches to any of the right hand side of the production, then we apply the second step, that is the reduction. So this reduction step will be a specific substring which is matching to the body of the production, is been replaced by the non-terminal which is at the head of that production. So the key decision during this bottom-up parser are about when to reduce and which production to apply. That is, what are the key decisions? The key decisions are when you are going to reduce and which production you are been using. So a reduction is a reverse step of the derivation. So if you see what is the reduction, it is a reverse step of the derivation. So the goal of the bottom-up parser is to construct a derivation tree in the reverse. Like we start something like this. We start with this ID. First we reduce this ID by means of the F. Now this F has been reduced by T, and now this T is reduced. Now next this ID has been reduced by the F. We get now the T star F. Now this T star F, whole thing is reduced by the T, and finally T is reduced to the E, and E happens to be your start symbol. So what is happening? So in case of this shift reduce parser, if you see, we are building the parse tree. Again, we are building the parse tree. Recall that in case of the top-down parser, we started to build the parse tree from the top. That is from, we started with this E goes to T goes to T star F goes to T star ID goes to F star ID, and then finally ID star ID. Whereas here, we are building the parse tree in the reverse order. That is, we start with this leaves, that is ID star ID, and then go on reducing it till we reach to the start symbol. So till we reach to the start symbol. So now we'll see how this handle pruning works with this shift reduce parser. So what is this handle for? So what is a handle? So handle is a substring. Recall that. What's a handle? Handle is the substring. The handle is the substring which matches to the body of the production. We are looking for the body. Body means right hand side of the production. So handle is a substring which matches to the body of the production and whose reduction represents one step along the reverse of the rightmost dimension. It means that whenever the body of the production has been matched, that is your right hand side is been matched, we call it as the handle. And that handle will be replaced by the left hand side, that is the non-right. So if you see this right sentimental form, like let's say for example, I wanted to build the input string for ID. So in case of this ID star ID, what will happen? We'll be having this ID will be the handle, because if you see your F goes to ID is my production. So ID becomes handle. Now we will replace this ID by the production non-terminal, that is the F. So eventually what will happen? We'll get the input as the F star. Now once this F star ID is being appearing, so what is happening? Again, F is the handle, because we have a production T goes to T star F or F, and that's the reason why this goes to F will be reduced and this F will reduce to. Now what is happening? See, your T is also handle, because if you see E goes to E plus or T is the production. But if I reduce this T by considering the handle, that is T, then it reduces to the start symbol. Recall that whenever you reach to the start symbol, we are ending the parse tree. And that's the reason why we'll not be considering now this T as the handle. Instead, we'll consider ID as the handle. Yeah, Saida, yeah, talk me. Yeah, tell me. Saida, you wanted to ask something? Saida, you wanted to ask? Yeah, you can ask. Hello? Saida, you have any doubt?
No, sir, nothing.
Okay. Now see here, the handle is ID, and that's the reason why we'll again have F goes to ID, and that's the reason why this ID will be replaced now by the F. Now we'll be having the handle as what? T star F, and as I have this T star F directly goes to the E, which is the start symbol. So with this, what will happen is that we have built a parse tree. We have built a parse tree that is from the bottom. That is from the bottom. We have built a parse tree from the bottom. So this shift reduce parsing. So in case of the shift reduce parsing, a stack is used the grammar symbol. So stack will be always used to hold the grammar symbol. So this is my, this is the W. So this is the W. So this is the stack. So dollar symbol is used to indicate the stack. Always remember that of the stack, if you are writing the symbols on the left hand side, it always indicates the top-down parsing. If you are entering the symbol on the left-hand side of the stack, it is the top-down parsing. Whereas if you are inserting the symbol on the right-hand side of the stack, you are inserting the symbol on the right-hand side of the stack, it is the bottom. So what is happening? We'll be having the stack, we'll having the input symbol, and based on this input symbol, we go on shifting onto the stack. And finally, this is the accept. So when dollar has been appearing, so when dollar appears onto the stack, So when your input symbol is having the dollar, it means that all the symbols of the input were been shifted onto the stack and they were been reduced, and you're reached now to the start symbol, and we say this step as the accept. So in case of this, in case of this shift reduce parsing, so we'll be having in case of the shift reduce parsing, so we'll be having the 4 operations. So what are the 4 operations? The first operation, we call it as the shift. The second operation, we call it as the reduce. The third operation, it's called as the accept. And the fourth operation is the error. So how many operations we have with the shift reduce parser? There are 4 operations: shift, reduce, accept, and error. So if you see over here, that is, this is my stack, this is my input symbol, this is the action part. This is the action part. Now this is my dollar, this is the stack. So the first operation that we'll be performing on this shift reduce parser is that I'll be shifting the first symbol by the action. This is called as the shift. So this is my first action, that is the shift. So what will happen now? This ID symbol, your ID symbol will get reduced onto the, or shifted onto the stack. So what is the input remaining now? It is the star and ID, dollar. So if you see over here, this ID is a handle. Just now we have seen. What's an handle? Handle is any part of the string which is appearing on the right hand side and which can be replaced by means of the non-terminal appearing on the left hand side. So you will be appearing, or the action now here will be the reduce. So what will be the reduce? We'll be reducing this ID by means of the F. So this is the F now. Now see here, on top of the stack, we have a symbol F. The input string is star and ID. So as F is again a handle, so again we'll be reducing by means of the T. So if we reduce it by means of the T, so T is appearing. Again your input is what? Star.id. Now as T is a handle, but T reaches to the start symbol, the next operation that we are using is called as the shift. So what we are doing now, we are shifting the next symbol. That is, we are shifting star onto the stack. The remaining input, the remaining input will be what? Now it is the ID. So star has been shifted onto. Now next is what? T star cannot be unhandled. That's the reason why again I'm using the shift. So again what is happening? This ID is shifted onto the stack. So now once I shift, top of the stack will be what? It's ID. Top of the stack is ID. And that's the reason why we have been reducing this ID by means of the F. We are reduced because ID becomes an handle. So we are reducing this by the F. So now your top of the stack is having the T star F. So we can reduce this T star F by T, and this T is again handle which is reduced by the E, and we say that we have reached to the accept stage. So what is the accept stage? The accept stage is when we do not have any symbol on the input. So your input is blank now. We have dollar in the input. Whereas the stack is having the start symbol. Stack is having the start symbol. And this step of the parser, we call it as the accept. So if you see over here, we have with this bottom-up parser, 3 things. One is the shift, like when you are shifting a symbol onto the stack. It's a reduce operation. When the handle appears on the right-hand side, we replace by the left-hand side of the production. On the stack, we call this as the reduce. And then we call this as the, when stack is holding the start symbol, Input string is having the dollar, and we reach a step and we call this step as the accept. So this is the accept. There is one more step with the shift reduce parser, and this step we call it as the error. Like for example, your stack is having a handle which can be reduced. Also, you have an option wherein you can shift something onto the stack. So a conflict will occur, or you have something input. We have some input, and this input, when it has been inserted onto the stack, we are not getting any handle on the right hand side. So we say that an error is being encountered. So what's an error? Let's say, for example, this I'm having here as ID, let's say percentage ID. Now eventually ID will be shifted with this, and then I'll shift this, instead of percent I'll have now a star will have percent. Now we'll have that T star percent. Now this will be the T star F. Now T star F is a handle, but T percent F is not an handle. So eventually your parser cannot continue its action. And this step of the parser is been named as the error step. So recall that this is a very important question in the examination. So what are the different operations in the shift reduce parser? 4 operations are there with the shift reduce parser. One called the shift, second is the reduce, third one is the accept, and fourth one is the error. So what's an error? So we have something on the top of the stack and we are unable to reduce. We are unable to reduce. It is not matching with any of the handle, and we say that the parser has entered into a state, and this state is named as the error state. This state is named as the error state. So this is what that parser. So error state. So this is another important question which is asked in the examination. That is the conflicts during the shift reduce parsing. So what are the conflicts in? So mainly, what's a conflict? Conflict is a comparison. Like conflict, what happens whenever a conflict occurs, then eventually what will happen is that you are unable to make a decision. Let's say, for example, I have something which I can shift onto the stack, whereas I can reduce also. So you don't know whether the parser should shift the symbol onto the stack or whether the parser should reduce it. So this step of the parser, wherein your parser is unable to make a decision whether shift is inappropriate or reduce is inappropriate. This step of the parser is been named as the conflict. This step of the parser is named as the conflict. So there are two types of the conflict. One called as the shift reduce conflict and another one called as the reduce conflict. So what are the two conflict? One is the shift reduce conflict. Another one is the reduce conflict. So what is the shift reduce conflict? As the name itself indicate. So when we have two options, like I can shift also, I can reduce also. What are the two options? I can shift also, I can reduce also. The two things are being possible for the shift reduce parser, and we say this conflict as the shift reduce conflict. Like for example, we have a statement like if expression then statement, or if expression then statement else statement, or some other. And let us assume that your stack is holding the part like if expression then statement, whereas your input symbol has been telling that you have something else part. Now see here, if expression then statement is a handle, if you see over here, because I can reduce this if expression then statement by the statement, or else I can also shift this input symbol onto the stack, and then it will have this part of the production. That is if expression then statement else statement. That means what is happening in this case? There are two possibilities. One is I can shift a symbol onto the stack, or else I can reduce the production and I can go to the non-terminal of the product. So such a conflict, we call it as the shift reduce. Are you getting it? So in shift reduce, name itself indicate. We have two options now. One is shift, another one is reduce. Both the options, that is the shift as well as the reduce, both the options are the valid operation in the shift reduce parser. So this conflict, we call it as the shift reduce conflict. Are you getting it now? So in case of the shift reduce parser, we have four operations. One is shift, reduce, accept, error. Now with this four operations, some conflicts might occur during the shift reduce parsing. And these conflicts are been named as the shift reduce conflict and the reduce conflict. So what is the shift reduce conflict? In shift reduce conflict, we have some symbol onto the stack. We have some input symbol which is to be looked by the parser. So eventually what will happen? There are these two valid states. One is I can either reduce it because this is a valid symbol on the stack, which is the handle, or I can shift a symbol and then I can look for the reduction. So both these things are been valid, and that's the reason why this conflict of the parser is named as the shift reduce conflict. This conflict of the parser is named as the shift reduce conflict. Now let's look for the reduce. I think the name itself is indicating. What is the reduce? I have two productions which are leading to the handle. I have two productions which are leading to the handle. Let's say, for example, I have written a production wherein I have F goes to ID. Let's say I have written something, Z is also going to ID. Now what is happening? Your ID can be reduced to the F. ID can also be reduced to the Z. Now your parser is not knowing which is the appropriate production to apply. In that case, the conflict is been named as the reduce conflict. Are you getting it? So in reduce conflict, we have two valid handles which are appearing on the right hand side of the production, which can be replaced by the non-terminal on the left hand side. So this has been named as the reduce conflict. This has been named as reduce conflict. So this is an example of the reduce conflict. So what's this example? If you see over here, I have a statement which is going to the ID for the parameter list. I have a statement which goes to the expression for the expression. Now parameter list is the parameter list or parameter. Parameter list is the parameter. Parameter can be ID. Expression has been ID with the expression list, or expression with the ID, or expression list is expression list expression. Expression list is with the expression. Now see here, this is the handle. What is the handle? ID is the handle. This handle can be reduced by the parameter. Now I have again an ID. This is also an handle which can be reduced by the expression. Now whenever your stack symbol is having the ID, whenever your stack symbol is having the ID, then what will happen? This your parser is not knowing whether this ID should be reduced by the parameter or your ID is to be reduced by the expression. So this case of the parser or the conflict, we call it as the reduce conflict. Are you getting it? So in reduce conflict, your ID is replaced or ID can be reduced either by the parameter or ID can be reduced by the expression. Your parser is unable to make a decision whether this production is appropriate one for the reduction or this production is appropriate for reduction. And we call this step of the parser as the conflict with the reduce. So we are getting now with this two ways of the conflict. We are getting now with the two ways of the conflict. So what are the two conflicts? What are the two conflicts? If you see over here, one is the shift reduce conflict. Another one is, this is the shift reduce conflict. Another one is the reduce conflict. Are you getting it? So we have studied now the parsers. That is the how to build a bottom up. Hello. Yeah, I think there was some problem with the network. So if you see over here now, so am I audible now? Hello,
Yes, sir.
Shirish.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, am I
Yes, sir.
audible? Yeah, see here now. So what is happening here is that we discussed about how to build this bottom-up parsers. So how are we building the bottom-up parsers? We are building the bottom-up parsers. So we are building this bottom-up parsers. We are building the bottom-up parsers by means of a simple technique that is
Leaves.
called as the starting from the leaves going towards the start symbol. Okay, starting from the leaves going towards the start symbol. So what we do is that, so we start with this leaves and we go towards the start symbol. Okay. I think there's some problem with the system. Yeah, it's okay. So this is the shift reduce parser we said. This is the best example of the bottom up parser, that is the shift reduce parser. So the general idea, as we have seen, we wanted to shift some symbols onto the stack. We wanted to shift some symbols onto the stack and then use this reduction of the parser. Okay. So this is the handle pruning. So let me again define what's an handle. So handle is a substring that matches to the body of a production and whose reduction represents one step along the reverse of the rightmost derivation. Recall that we are building the derivation, that is parse tree, from the reverse. That is from starting from the leaves towards the start symbol. So this is the right sentential form, handle, reduction of the production. Okay. So this is the shift reduce parsing. So we use the stack, the handle, and so on. Okay. So these are the operations: shift, reduce, accept, and error. So again, let me explain. Shift is the operation whenever you are shifting some symbol onto the stack. So shift indicates that you are shifting some symbol onto the stack, whereas reduction indicates that something which is matched on the right hand side of the production, we are reducing it by the non-terminal on the left hand side. So shift, reduce. What is the accept stage? When your stack holds the start symbol, input is having the dollar, that is empty string, we reach to a shift reduce parser state called as the accept. And the fourth is called as the error. So in case of the error, what will happen? In case of the error, what will happen is that by knowing that something on the stack, but you are unable to proceed further. You are neither able to shift, neither able to reduce. So that's the reason we call that parser step as the error. Okay, so these are the 4 operations. Now, 2 conflicts which normally occurs with the shift reduce parser. One is the shift reduce parse conflict, another one the reduce. In shift reduce conflict, what will happen is that by knowing the entire stack and the input string, we are unable to make a decision whether reduce is an appropriate or shift is an appropriate one. So we call this conflict as the shift reduce conflict. So by knowing the stack and the next input symbol, both the cases, that is the shift is a valid, reduce is a valid, we call that conflict as the shift reduce conflict. Whereas the second conflict that we call it as the reduce reduce conflict. In reduce reduce conflict, what is happening? We are having a handle which is matching to the right hand side of the production, but on the left hand side we have 2 different non-terminals. Like in this example, your ID is matching to the parameter and ID is also matching to the expression. So by knowing the stack which is having the handle ID, your parser is unable to make a decision like whether it should reduce it with the help of the parameter or ID should be reduced by the expression. We call this step of the parser or the conflict of the parser as the reduce reduce conflict. Okay. Now see, whatever the problems that we have solved, by means of the top-down parser, we can also solve by means of this shift reduce parser. We can solve by means of the shift reduce parser. So what we can do is that I'll just share you some problems with this shift reduce parser. Like I'll just give you some problem. You can take this example. Like note down this. S goes to L equal to R or not this. I think you have one more grammar. Otherwise, I'll do one thing. I'll share you the problems. You work on all these problems. Submit whatever the solutions you have been getting to me, to my mail ID. That is jsatvik, one or something. I think jsatvik007 it is at gmail.com, and I'll just check it out. If you have any difficulty, even you can just put a query to me on the WhatsApp also. But remember that, if you remember that, we have solved some problems. Like if you recall that we solved some problems while building the parse tree, that is the top-down parser, like some problem we have started, E goes to this one, I think S goes to SS star, SS plus, something like that. So some problems we have solved it. So I'll just share you some problems. So what I request you is that you need to solve those problems by means of the shift reduce parser today. Put me the answer. Because if you understand, yeah, am I audible, Shirish? Shirish. Hello, Shirish. Shruti. Yes, anybody is there? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, am I audible? Hello, can anybody respond me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm audible. Okay. So do one thing. So what you do is that I'll share you the problems. I'll share you all the problems. You solve all those problems. And then next step will be this LR parsing. This is very important one. That is the LR parsers, like how these LR parsers are being built. Because now, see, by looking at the grammars involved, we are making the shift reduce parser, or we are taking a decision when to shift, when to reduce. Now the question comes here is that how my computer understands like when to shift or when to reduce. So that will be discussed by means of this LR parser. So tomorrow's class will be dedicating to this LR parsers, then the simple LR, that is LR zero items and all, which is very important one, because we'll be having all the problems based on this LR parsers. Okay, so I think you can unmute your sound. If you have any queries, how was today's session, you can just come online. Yeah,
It was good, sir.
it was good. How was the network connectivity?
Nice, sir.
How was the network connectivity?
There was a bit
Yeah. Hello.
difficulty, but
Yeah. How was the network connectivity? Hello, Shirish. Hello, Shirish. Am I audible, Shirish? Hello. Shu, am I audible? Hello, am I audible, Shirish? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if I'm audible, do one thing then. I'll share you the problems. You try to solve all those problems and get back to me. Get back to me. And tomorrow we'll have start with this LR parsers. Okay. Meanwhile, I'll do one thing. Now, if all the video is clear, then I may not share you in the WhatsApp group. Or if you have any difficulty, then I'll just share you some YouTube link wherein you can able to find out this session, and you can listen it again. Do you want me to share? Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Shall I share this session?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay, I'll do one thing then. I'll share this video. I'll just upload it, maybe let's say YouTube if it's possible, or otherwise I'll share in your WhatsApp group. So just go through all this session again. If you have any difficulty, now just call me at any
Okay,
time.
sir.
There was bit disturbance because I'm using my mobile data and some calls were been coming, and that was the reason. I think sometime it was got disconnected. Otherwise, it was fine. How was it?
Yeah, it was good, sir.
It was good, no? I think something has been
Yes, sir.
good, because what is happening, like we were been sharing you some YouTube videos and all, but what happens is that that YouTube video may not suit your environment because you may not understand everything from it. Whereas you will definitely understand whatever I'm teaching you, because we'll have that bonding. You know what is
Yes,
syllabus,
yes, sir.
what sir is been teaching. And all. That was the reason. Like what we thought is that let's start some every day, some 2-3 classes online. I think almost everybody's been there now to check you the online classes. Okay. Okay then.
Yes, sir.
Okay then. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Do
Have a
join
nice
us.
day. Have a nice day, sir.
Have a nice day. Take care of yourself, your members, everyone. Huh? Thank you very much. Thank you, one. Thank you, one and all, for attending the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much.